This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss the latest, greatest, and most important news in the wide world of sports. My name is Ben.
My name is Alex.
We are back here on a Monday. You enjoyed the extra hour of sleep yesterday?
Yeah, I did.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. It wasn't bad.
You know,
It's
it was...
It's nice to have the sun out in the morning when I get up now.
Seeing as how I woke up at 4 a.m., it was really nice to have that extra hour of sleep.
Like I woke up... Like I wake up like 6, to leave for here, and so in sense that's like 7 o'clock, and how I was used to getting up, and I woke up at 5:30, and I was already kind of like rested feeling. So, yeah, it was nice.
I agree with you. I am with you, buddy.
Especially for you, yeah. You wake up so early because of the soccer. So
yeah, I was up at 4 a.m. yesterday to watch a soccer game. So really, my body felt like it was 5, which is normal time I wake up during the week. So it was pretty nice. So
I respect that.
Plus, I had trouble sleeping Saturday night, so...
Well, that's not good. So I guess that extra hour kind of made it feel better.
It did. So we're going to talk some NFL news in the first segment of the show. Obviously, we had the slate of games yesterday. Some big ones, some big takeaways there. We have Monday Night Football tonight between the Seahawks and the Bills. So we'll preview that in the end of the segment. We're also going to talk college football, some results from the weekend, a few upsets. Number 4, Texas A&M does get upset by Mississippi State, so they will be dropping out of the top 4 in the college football playoff, which will be revealed tomorrow, so we'll have to do some sort of predictions.
Well, it'll be tomorrow after the show's done.
Right, so like predictions as to who we think will be up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then for segment 3, we're going to be talking about some quick news. We have a new manager hiring. We have the celebration for the Cubs on Friday, which broke some records.
Yeah.
As far as attendance. So, and then other stuff as well to inform you. So let's get right into the show, talk some NFL news, week number 9 in the National Football League.
So the first game that they have listed here, and I'm glad because I just want to get it over with talking about it. The Steelers face the Ravens. The Ravens win this one 21-14. Just an ugly game. Ben Roethlisberger's first came back from injury. It was not a pretty game. If you're a Steeler fan or a team that doesn't like the Ravens, or a fan that doesn't like the Ravens or anything like that, it was not necessarily a fun one in that aspect. The Browns, again, failed to get on the winning record column there, losing to the Cowboys pretty big, 35-10. The Cowboys moved to 7-1, and I'm sorry, I meant to mention the Ravens and the Steelers are both 4-4 now, but the Ravens take first place in the AFC North. The Cowboys moved to 7-1. They're still undefeated on the road, and the Browns moved to 0-9, and of course they are winless on the road and at home, so...
Well, I mean, they'll probably win their next 7 games. So.
And they'll make the playoffs or something like that. Ezekiel Elliott continues to be the leading rusher in the league, running again for 92 yards and 2 more scores. He just looks great. Moving to a game in which the Chiefs had the starting quarterback that was not Alex Smith for the first time in a few years, and that was Nick Foles, who was able to win this one and move the Chiefs to 6-2, and they are undefeated at home over the visiting Jaguars, 19-14. He didn't have an amazing game, but it's very serviceable. I think about 200-something and 1. He played well. He really did.
We actually saw the first person get ejected with the 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, and that was tight end Travis Kelce.
Yeah,
it
wasn't like a like one of those illegal hit kind of.
He threw his towel at the ref.
Yeah, he did 2 back-to-back, like he was yelling at the ref kind of thing. I think he yelled a word at him because he wouldn't look at him, and I think he maybe cussed at him, and then he threw a flag, and then they were chirping at each other, and then Kelce threw his towel at him, and then the ref, of course, once you throw your flag and you have to throw a flag again, you throw your hat.
Of all the people or I should say all the positions to get the first person to get kicked out with this rule, you'd imagine it'd be like a defensive lineman, maybe a defensive back, but not a tight end.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
I wasn't surprised it was him though. Like he has been known to let his emotions get the best of him, So that was kind of funny, not funny, but I felt
that was pretty funny. I mean, let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
Let's be honest. Pretty funny.
Yeah. Moving to the AFC South, No, wait.
Or East.
East. I think AC East. Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at the Jaguars still. The Dolphins defeat the Jets, and this is a pretty entertaining game. The Dolphins moved to 4-4, defeating the Jets 27-23. The Jets moved to 3-6. Ryan Fitzpatrick, not an amazing day, 193-1. Jay Ajayi, though, 111 yards and a score. He failed to get to 200, but man, did he have a good day at 111.
Is it time for Ryan Fitzpatrick to ride the pine pony? Are we going to see Bryce Petty?
He's not throwing picks.
He threw a red zone interception again yesterday, his 5th of the season.
I'm saying he's not throwing a lot of picks.
And there's just no movement.
He actually did come out of the game at one point, and Bryce Petty did play. I don't know if he passed the ball. I'm looking at his stat line currently. He did. He was 2 for 2 for 19 yards.
He's already tearing it up.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick, 193, 1-2. I mean, I think eventually, if they're going to continue playing the way they're playing, then yeah, they're going to have to play Bryce Petty in some games. See what you have.
Their season is over. Just put them in and see what you have. Play the young guys. They're 3-6 now. They're definitely not winning the division with New England sitting at 7-1.
Yeah, I mean,
Dolphins are ahead of them. The Bills are ahead of them. It's time. You're not going to have Fitzpatrick next year. You might as well see what you have in somebody. Geno Smith's out for the year. Christian Hackenberger, I don't think you're going to put in right now.
Yeah, Christian Hackenberg, he hasn't been active, I don't think, at all this year.
Right. So I say start Petty. I mean, seriously, I think you need to move to him.
Yeah, I mean,
at least for the end of the year.
Go from here. Yeah. Moving on to a matchup within their division, the Giants defeating the Eagles, and also quite an entertaining game. The Giants moved 5-3 on the year. The Eagles fall 4-4 after a strong start before their bye week. They have since struggled. Carson Wentz, 364 yards, but 2 interceptions on his end. Eli Manning, 4 touchdown passes in this game, 2 of which went to Odell Beckham Jr. Impressive day for Eli.
Definitely on my fantasy team, so I was quite happy as well.
I bet you were. A game that went right down to the wire, as a matter of fact, in overtime. It had one of the more entertaining touchdowns that we'll see this year. Now with the Lions defeating the Vikings. 3 straight losses for a team that looked like the best team with the best division and the best defense in the league. They win this one 22-16 over the Vikings. They move to 5-4. The Vikings fall to 5-3. Sam Bradford, not a bad day, 273-1. But the big deal in this one was the game-winning touchdown to Golden Tate from Matthew Stafford in overtime. He catches it along the sideline. He kind of cuts it back up, spins around, does a flip into the end zone because I don't think he realizes that Sendejo was this close to him, and Sendejo just rolls him. So that was entertaining, to say the least. But,
I got to think Golden Tate's probably one of the most disliked players in the league. For some of his, remember when on Monday Night Football, when he was playing for Seattle, and he's waving his finger away as he's going into the end zone against the Rams.
Yeah,
the Fail Mary,
a little bit like that.
The Fail Mary where he absolutely shoves. I think it was Sam Shields that day to catch the touchdown. And now this,
he's definitely scaled it back. It's definitely scaled back, but then because he's not winning as many games as he was with Seattle, and his stat line is definitely a little weaker this year than it was prior.
But really the big storyline for me is the Detroit Lions, now at 5-4. You know that they have trailed in the fourth quarter in every single game they've been in.
Yeah, Matt Stafford can't win a game unless he wins in the fourth quarter.
But yet they're 5-4. I think Stafford is definitely a dark horse MVP candidate. Just strictly looking at the value he provides this team, you could say they're almost better without Calvin Johnson now.
Yeah, they're winning games in different ways, and they're not having to rely on a guy like Calvin Johnson. And then, Stafford, the numbers he's putting up, regardless of the whole value to his team thing, valuable, very much so, but he's definitely putting up some great numbers. So it was interesting in that sense. Moving on to an NFC matchup, the Rams lose one at home to the visiting Panthers, but it's closer than people would have thought this matchup would be heading into this season. 13-10 in favor of the Panthers. Case Keenum, 296-1. Still not anything amazing, but he wasn't helped by some of his receivers in this one. Wide open drop by one of his tight ends. Lance Kendrick in the end zone would have made it 10-7 at one point. And that was a lot earlier than they ended up scoring their touchdown late in the game to start with. So, tough loss for the Rams. They moved to 3-6, and the Panthers move up to 3-6.
Yeah, only 2 games back of that NFC South crown. They're still in it, you know what I mean? They're still there.
That NFC South is like a joke every year. I feel so bad.
Well, Atlanta's doing pretty good things this year.
Yeah. There's always one solid team and then just horrible teams. Moving to a game that was not far from where you and I are currently sitting. The Saints defeat the Niners pretty big fashion, 41-23. The Niners dropped to 1-7. Saints moved to 4-4. Colin Kaepernick, though, didn't have a bad day. 398-2. He had some rushing yards there. Mark Ingram, 158-1 after being quote-unquote punished for his fumble last week.
And he was actually out-carried by Tim Hightower in this game, 24-15. So Ingram just making the most out of it with
definitely
a big gain, 75-yard gain, had a couple of touchdowns, one receiving, one rushing.
Hightower had a good game, 87 yards and a touchdown, but definitely taking advantage of his 15 carries there. Ingram did for 158. And, of course, Drew Brees, 323, 3 touchdowns. He is playing just as good as ever.
This game was literally the definition of Madden. Combined for 1,057 yards, these two teams combined for.
I don't know about you, but my Madden game's never that close.
18 points is close?
No, I'm just teasing you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean,
every once in a while I get bigger. It depends on what I'm playing. Anyways, we're moving on to a game that I would never want to be in Madden, and that is the Chargers versus the Titans. The Chargers win this one at home, moving to 4-3 on the year. They're playing pretty well at home, 3-1 there. And the Titans lose another game, dropping to 4-5. They are 500 on the road at 2-2. 43-35 in favor of San Diego. Marcus Mariota did have a good day, though. 313-3 for him. Melvin Gordon, a pretty awesome day, 196-1 for him. He is definitely leaving behind that bad rookie season he had last year through injuries and no touchdowns scored for him. He is definitely putting that in the rear mirror there. DeMarco Murray, not amazing, 51 yards and a score. He did add some catches, but
yeah, he kind of got taken out of the game flow. This game was really lopsided. The Chargers score a couple of defensive touchdowns. Mm-hmm. So the big story is definitely Melvin Gordon. He's having, I'd say, probably the most surprising running back year because of how bad he was last year, or the fumbling issues. And this year, he's just absolutely tearing it up. Leads the league in touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. And Phillip Rivers had another good game, 275-2. Moving on to the last of the afternoon games, and that's the Packers taking on the Colts. This one was close generally, but at times they kind of got pulled away. The Colts win this one 31-26. The Colts moved to 4-5 on the year, and the Packers dropped to 500 at 4-4. Aaron Rodgers 3 yards shy of 300 at 297 and 3 scores. Jordy Nelson had a pretty good game, 94 yards and a touchdown. This game really got the tone set, though, by a 99-yard touchdown return to open the game by Jordan Todman. And I'm sorry, Ben, I know you're not happy. Andrew Luck played great in the sense of when they needed him to, but wasn't a great stat line, 281, 1 and 2. Unfortunately, 2 picks by Clinton Dix in the first quarter. It's the first time that a Packer has done that since Mr. Woodson, to say the least. Pretty good player, if you ask me.
Aaron Rodgers definitely very upset after the game, kind of calling out his team, talking about the lack of energy, not really ready to play. And, I mean, now you look at Green Bay at 4-4, really surprising team in a bad way. Disappointing year so far for them.
Yeah, I would say so. It's a tricky situation to look at because it's not like they're a bad team, but they're not winning games. So, in that sense, it's tricky. But they moved to 500. 400, that'd be a weird stat. Moved to 500 on the year. And then the game to end the night, the nightcap, the Raiders' first primetime Sunday night game in over a decade and a half almost, I believe. And the Raiders took all they could in terms of advantage of this one, winning 30-20 over the Broncos, moving to 7-2 on the year in sole possession of the AFC West lead. The Broncos dropped to 6-3, right behind them there. The Raiders are right up there in the top of the AFC in terms of playoffs seedings. They are playing great.
I was surprised at this result. I picked Denver on Friday. Looked at the Raiders.
As did I. I said if they were going to win one of these games, I figured the Raiders would win it in Denver, just like they did last year. And they've been playing so well on the road this year, undefeated. So
yeah, the Raiders coming to the game at 6-2. They hadn't had a win against a team with a winning record, so they're beating teams obviously they should win. And really, as you mentioned, their first primetime matchup in I can't tell you how long.
I want to say it was 2002.
So I figured, I'll take the team with the better defense. The Raiders are good, but we're not sure exactly how good they are. Not really ready for the moment. But it was just Raiders' offensive line and their rushing attack. The Raiders ran for over 200 yards, took the total air out of the ball. They kind of looked like Denver in a way. Ran the ball, controlled the ball, played solid defense for the most part, which is not something the Raiders have done all year long.
Yeah.
And won the game. I was really impressed, and I guess you got to take the Raiders a lot more serious than maybe you already did. So they're playing lights out.
Of those 200 yards you're speaking of, 114 went to Latavius Murray, who had 3 scores on that night. And then I mentioned, too, to Jeremiah when we talked about how we thought this Raider team would be good, and then they started off kind of bad defensively. I said I think when they get healthy and they get some of those young pieces in there, when Carl Joseph got healthy, which he did, they would start fixing some of those issues, and they definitely looked like they did so last night. So that was impressive to say the least. This game is not as close as it looked. At halftime, it was 20-10, and then they added a nice score to cap it off there late in the game, and the Broncos, of course, scored, but it's a little too late. So impressive win by the Raiders. It really is.
Definitely.
On the bye this week, you had the Bears, the Bengals, the Patriots, the Cardinals, the Redskins, and the Texans. And that leads us to tonight, 2 teams I did not mention because they are playing one another. The Bills are taking on the Seahawks, 4-4 versus 4-2-1 tonight at CenturyLink Field. Who are you going with in this one?
Got Seattle, prime time, Monday night, CenturyLink Field. That just spells recipe for disaster. I got to take the Seahawks. I mean, coming off their loss last week against the Saints, I think that's a result that a lot of people were surprised about. And the offense is still struggling. The offensive line's not too good. Christian Michael's been okay. Russell Wilson still dealing with multiple injuries to his legs, so his mobility's kind of shot. But I think the Seahawks are just a better team. I think their defense will be able to control what the Bills do. LaShawn McCoy is still battling a hammy, so
apparently he's close to playing in this one. He's not listed on their injury report, so it's interesting to see how he's going to be listed heading into tonight's game.
So I'll take Seattle.
Yeah, I'll take Seattle too. And we've seen how you were mentioning Russell Wilson still looking kind of rusty. Cam Chancellor's out. They have another cornerback, DeAndre Elliott, who's going to be out. Thomas Rawls obviously is still out, and they have their tackle who's questionable. So still a lot of injuries for both of these teams. And then the Seahawks definitely not looking like the Seahawks of old. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I would still give it to the Seahawks in this one, personally. And, of course, I will recap this game for you tomorrow in our episode Sans Ben. He will be back on Wednesday, of course. But we're going to take our first break, and we're going to come back and talk college football after a pretty solid week of action, in my opinion. We'll do that here in just a minute at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we're back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, and it's time to talk college football. And an insanely entertaining week of college football as we look at the top 25. We had most of these teams winning, but, oh man, did some lose. And by some, I mean Texas A&M losing to Mississippi State 35-28. We had Ohio State defeating Nebraska. I mean, that's one of those teams that had to lose in 6 over a 10. Most of these other teams, that in terms of ranked teams, they did their job. Florida, unfortunately for them, they lost to Arkansas 31-10. Wasn't even close for a number 11 team facing an unranked team. TCU defeated Baylor and in good fashion, 62-22 in a game that a lot of people wanted Baylor to lose for reasons that I'm not going to go into on this show. Has to do with their former coach, Art Briles, and a lot of stuff we've talked about before. I don't really feel like getting into it.
Neither do I, so we just won't.
There we go, Ben. And that's about it for the upsets for the most part. You had some big wins from definitely the top 10 teams. Alabama didn't win big numbers-wise, but they defeated number 13, LSU 10-0, and honestly a pretty boring game.
This is like typical
0-0.
LSU and Bama. Remember a few years ago we had 6-3?
Mm-hmm.
It was tied at 0 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so that was pretty boring. Clemson won their game, number 2 over unranked Syracuse, 54-0. So a little bit of a big win there for them. Michigan just as big, 59-3. We had Washington winning 66 over Cal, 66-27. Jake Browning, 6 touchdown passes. The kid's on fire. If it wasn't for Lamar Jackson, he'd probably be the Heisman favorite.
I agree.
Lamar Jackson had another amazing day, 231-4, and he added 100-plus yards and 3 scores on the ground. Louisville winning this one 52-7 over Boston College. Wisconsin won. Auburn wins. So that's about it mainly for your top 10 teams, and you had some big wins for some other ranked teams as well. I know I was personally happy with the 69-7 Washington State win over Arizona.
As I know you were, being a Washington State fan. So pretty much every team, with the exception of Texas A&M at number 4, within the top 7 or 8, not only one, but one big. So obviously Bama is there, Clemson's there, Michigan is there. But now we're going to have a new number 4 team. So you have to look at Washington, Ohio State, and you look at Louisville.
I keep reading. People are like, could it happen again? Can somebody jump Washington again?
You know what? Honestly, with Ohio State winning over Nebraska 62-3, they won by 59 points. I think they're going to do it. I think Ohio State will jump Washington because...
So you think it's going to be Bama, Michigan, Clemson, like it was last week, where I called... Wait, no, Clemson, Michigan.
Yeah.
I called that happening too. So Bama, Clemson, Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, Louisville?
Yes, because the committee has shown that they don't really care about an undefeated record right now. They care about the quality of your victories. Washington's best victory was Utah last week when they won by 7.
Yeah, I mean, we see with Texas A&M dropping to only 10 after losing. I mean, in the AP poll, let alone, we'll see how the college football playoff poll comes out, but dropping to 10 after that loss, like, come on, that's some SEC bias.
That was a game that they were down by 14 in the fourth quarter on the road against a Mississippi State doesn't have Dak Prescott anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Knight did go out early in this game for Texas A&M, but it's not like they weren't in this game. It's not like he went out and they got smoked or anything. You're like, oh, we'll point it to that. Like, they played well with what they had, and they didn't end up losing by a huge, number eventually, but it's a loss nonetheless.
I mean, Ohio State wins convincingly.
They rolled them.
And I realize not many people are sold on Nebraska, and I'm one of them, but they were still ranked number 10 at the time. They beat Oklahoma on the road pretty convincingly, and they look like a good team now. They're ranked number 14. They're going to move up with their victory over Iowa State on Thursday. So their quality of victories are just a lot better than Washington's, although Washington did roll Cal by 39.
Yeah, but I mean, the best team they've beaten all year was Utah, and now they are currently 13. They beat them when they were 17, and I mean, that's the best they have had. They have SC this week, I think.
That's a tough game.
That's going to be a tough game.
USC won 45-20 over Utah on Saturday.
Yeah, they're playing a lot better. They're on a hot streak. They've won 5 straight games, but to end their year, they're going to have USC, Arizona State, and Washington State. Those aren't...
And if they get to a conference title game, they'll be looking at Colorado or Utah probably.
Yeah, because Utah currently is 17th, and Colorado, as it stands now,
15
is 15. No, they are 16. So.
Okay.
So I mean, the most impressive win they've had is Utah, who was 17 at the time. I mean, Utah is getting better, so that's making that win better. But I mean, like I said, with how USC is playing, don't count them out. I think they can beat Arizona State, and then the Cougars over Washington State, they're now 23 in the AP poll. They're proving to be very capable of winning these games, and they've always played, except for a couple years ago, but they lost their starting quarterback. They've always played UW well. So
how nuts is the Pac-12 though? Let's just name like the top 5 teams.
I can tell you
right
now.
You have Washington, Washington State, Utah, Colorado.
Those are the two top 2. Yeah.
Maybe USC?
Well, as it stands right now, Washington and Washington State are both 6-0 in their conference. Washington 9-0 to 7-2 for Washington State. They are in the first 2 spots in the North, right? In my opinion, I think it'll come down to the Apple Cup to decide who's going to play for the North.
I agree.
In the Pac-12 championship, and then you have Stanford at 4-3 and 6-3, so that's a decent drop there, even though they're only a game behind Washington State in the overall. And then you look at the South, and it's Colorado at 7-2 overall. Then SC at 6-3. So actually, if they keep going, they might be the ones to fight Colorado for the championship there in the South. And then Utah at 7-2, but they are 4-2 within the conference, so they've dropped a bit there.
But tell me another year that the Pac-12 the best teams have been Washington, Washington State, and Colorado.
It's been since the early 2000s.
Like, never. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's been since.
It's so crazy. Like, Oregon has totally dropped off.
Yeah,
Stanford's having a down year. UCLA's having a down year. USC's trying to turn their program around after the last few years. They haven't been so good.
I mean,
it's
they're definitely starting
crazy.
to. But yeah, Oregon's currently sitting at second to last in the North at 3-6, 1-5 in the conference. UCLA, same thing, 3-6 and 1-5 in the conference. So, yeah, there's some work to do for some of these Pac-12 teams, and I think that's hurting Washington because the strength of the conference is not as good.
I agree. So, do you think it's fair that Washington? Let's say they get jumped again. Let's say Ohio State moves to 4, Washington State's 5.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's fair?
I think that's no matter what it is. I think that's how it's going. That they can't. I mean, if I'm on the Washington team, I would feel like, man, what do we have to do? But don't worry about it. Worry about winning your games because that's all you can control. You know what I mean?
That's definitely true. I think Washington has to go undefeated if they want to get in. I think if they lose one game, no matter what, I think they're done. Even if they win the Pac-12.
Yeah, because if you look at it, if they lose one game, say to SC or say to somehow to Arizona State or say to Washington State, no matter what those teams do with USC looking better and Washington State being ranked 23 as it stands, that those aren't going to stand up to any of the losses that the teams currently in the top 6 have. Louisville's loss to Bama or not Bama, to Clemson is a strong loss. Ohio State's loss isn't great, but Penn State is 12th now, and it makes that look a little bit better. So if they were to lose to one of those teams, it's going to hurt them probably dramatically in that sense. So I mean, whether it's fair or not, that's what it is, and they're going to just control what you can control. If you continue to win out and you win all your games, I would say this is a very strong, chance that you'll be in there. But that's all you can really do. So that's what they have to look at.
I mean, I guess it's kind of unfair, but at the same time, this is what you get for not scheduling good teams in the non-conference. Mm-hmm. If you know obviously they don't know the conference is going to be down at the start of the year, but if you schedule at least one good team in non-conference, you don't have to worry about this issue. But I still think
schedule an Auburn.
Kind of like Clemson did. Clemson scheduled Auburn, and they won on the road, which people are like, oh, Clemson should have probably won by more than they did. Now you look at Auburn, they're ranked number 9 currently, about to move up after their victory.
They're 8 in the AP poll.
Right, so when you look at the college football playoff poll, they're currently 9th. They're going to move up because they beat Vanderbilt. They didn't win big, 23-16, but still a victory is a victory, so they'll move up. So that win just gets even more better for Clemson. Mm-hmm. Like, do the same thing. And I think
keep winning, yeah.
I think finally they might realize, because they're doing better than probably they even thought they would.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they'll have to when you look at it. But just to mention some teams that did move up, so we have at least in AP as it stands, 1 through 6 is intact. I like they list the number of votes that in terms of first place votes that some of these teams get, and every week there's one dude, just one guy that votes Michigan for number 1. So I like that. But obviously it's Bama, Michigan, Clemson, Washington State, Louisville, Ohio State. That is the same. Wisconsin moved up 1, Auburn 3, Oklahoma 3, Texas A&M lost and only went down 3, Western Virginia up 3 to 11 from 14, Penn State again up 8 spots to 12, Utah up 3 to 13. Western Michigan keeps winning, man. They are up 3 spots to 14. We have a lot of movers in this one up. We have North Carolina moving up 3 to 15, Colorado up 5 to 16, Oklahoma State up 5 to 17, and Virginia Tech up 5 to 18. LSU dropped 4 to 19. And then the top 10 and the 20, well, excuse me, the 10 grouping in that 20 is Florida State dropping down 1 spot to 20, Nebraska dropping 12 spots to 21, Florida dropping 12 spots to 22, Washington State moving up 2 spots to 23, Boise State again becoming ranked this year, and Baylor dropping 12 to 25 as it stands. Tomorrow, of course, we will have the college football playoff rankings after the show, unfortunately, so we might have a talk about who we think it's going to look like, but we won't have that for you until Wednesday. So Ben and I, of course, and Anthony will talk about that on Wednesday. I might just maybe make a mention of it at some point tomorrow. It's going to be pretty big heading down into the final stretch.
Definitely, as we get going here, last few games in conference, and we have conference title games to worry about. So I think for Washington, if they want to win, if they want to get in there, they have to win out. And I think for sure if Michigan beat Ohio State, because that'll give the Buckeyes 2 losses and they'll kind of be out of it. Then the only you have to worry about is really Louisville, which doesn't have as nearly the resume Ohio State does. So
exactly. So yeah, I think that's a very good way of putting it. And as it stands right now, Louisville's at 7, so they would take a lot more to jump in there. I mean, everybody in the perfect world would move up 1, so they'd be sitting around 6 or something. But yeah, that would take a little bit more to do. Anyways, we're going to take our last break. We're going to come back and just do some quick hitter news, we like to call it, and get out of here. So we'll be right back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome back into the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. We're going to end the show with just some quick sports-related stories. So, Alex, as you know, unless you haven't been around for a while, the Cubs won the World Series. Did you know that?
I did. I saw this funny meme. It was a guy in a coma, which is unlikely. They would have pulled the plug by now. But it was like, you've been in a coma for 108 years. He goes, what's happened? And he goes, well, the Cubs won the World Series for the first time in 108 years. He goes, no way, a three-peat?
Oh,
I mean, obviously, no, not happen. Not
the best meme I saw this weekend was John Cena, kind of like looking down, like depressed.
Yes.
And it was like a quote, like, girl, like, hey, John, when can I see you? And then he's like looking down and he's like, you can't see me.
I like that.
That was like probably the best one I've seen.
That's a good one.
But anyway, so as you know, the Cubs won the World Series Wednesday night. So they had their championship parade on Friday, which broke all kinds of records. Estimated about 5 million people showed up to this parade.
Yeah, if you saw any of the overhead shots, it's not a surprise that was the number that came up. It looked. I don't even know what to compare it to what it looked like. It looked like the Boston Marathon in terms of grouping of people, but just for like, I don't even know how to compare it. Like, I would have felt like if you were claustrophobic, don't even look at the picture, because if you're in the middle of that, you're not getting out for a while. Like,
no way.
And then they opened the gates and everybody started running. I guarantee people got trampled.
Somebody had. I was about to say that. It looked like the Hunger Games. People just running.
Oh, in that sense, yeah. Like Black Friday times 1,000.
Yes.
Like, so, I don't, like, somebody had to have fallen. And I feel horribly
something
for that
had
person.
to have, something bad had to have happened. But this was actually the largest gathering in United States history, and the 6th largest in the world ever.
Wow.
This right here on Friday, the Cubs championship parade.
That's pretty insane.
Estimated 5 million people. I couldn't imagine being there. That would just be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like, I literally, I imagine something bad had to have happened, and I mean, hopefully not. You know, hopefully everything was okay. But I did see that, like, 75 people were arrested. You know, things along those lines. I don't know for what. I'm not going to get into possibility.
I would imagine it'd be some sort of trespassing, some sort of vandalism. You saw that on Wednesday. Yeah. 14 people got arrested. There were videos of people climbing on 18-foot statues and like dancing on them and stuff. I mean, I can understand being happy and excited. It's been 108 years, but don't do anything that's stupid. Like, come on.
I mean, we see like when like you and I firsthand being so close to San Francisco and me being a San Francisco Giants fan, when they won the World Series and had their parades and stuff. Like, we see people, they don't seem to get like crazy or anything. I mean, I'm sure there have been arrests and stuff, but you see people like they climb on top of the Muni or the bus, like little kiosks, or they'll climb up on like, it's not statues, but like mailboxes and tall boxes and like electrical boxes and stuff. So they'd get up on those, and I would see that kind of stuff. But yeah, people were climbing on everything at this parade. Like, if they could, they were up on it.
Made no sense at all. But I mean, nevertheless, congrats to the Cubs and their fans. 108 years. That's great.
The only downside is I'm sure there's a lot of fans, a lot of older fans, that probably weren't able to really go to this parade in fear of getting hurt because of the
fear of dying because people would just run over them.
Well, I'm sure that was a fear for multiple people, not just older people, but for a lot of people. But
definitely, I mean, I would agree. So, 5 million people though, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. If you guys haven't seen the pictures, check them out. All right, staying in baseball and moving to the NL West, the Rockies have tapped ex-Padres manager Bud Black as their new manager. The highly regarded mound guru, as many call him, has been hired by the Colorado Rockies. This was announced on Sunday night. They're scheduled to have a Monday conference, that is today, to introduce him, but they did not reveal the team's choice. But it kind of leaked it. It was Bud Black. You're hearing it here, folks. He's 59 years old. Of course, he managed the Padres for about 9 seasons before he was fired 2 years ago. Not a great record. He was definitely not on the winning side of it. 649 to 713 in terms of win-loss. They finished 75-87 in his last year, and that was their best record since 2010. So it's not like they're bringing in a guy who finished his time the last time he managed as a winner. Washington was rumored to be hiring him before they hired Dusty Baker, as a matter of fact, but they broke down for whatever reason, their contract talks. So he has been in the MLB for 15 years, and obviously he is very respected. He was once the pitching coach for the Angels, in which they were a pretty solid club there with him. So definitely, hopefully, help a team like Colorado, who had a ERA of 4.91, which was tied for 13 out of 15, and second to worst, third to worst in a sense in the National League.
So definitely they can hit. It's a hitter's ballpark.
Yeah,
great hitters. And Nolan Arenado, Trevor Story had a great rookie year before he got injured. So they can definitely hit. So hopefully they bring in Bud Black can turn their pitching staff around and make them that much better. We'll have to wait and see. They don't have much in the pitching stance. But we'll have to wait and see.
Not an insane amount. I mean, they have John Gray, who was the third overall pick back in 2013. They have Tyler Chatwood. He had the best road ERA in the majors last year at 1.69. And they have Chad Bettis and Tyler Anderson, who have been making more strides. And then they're probably going to lose Jorge De La Rosa to free agency. So they lose one piece. But they have some young pitchers there, if you look at it that way. Moving on, Ben.
Okay, so we actually have someone who's going to be getting released.
Do we?
The infamous ear blower, Lance Stephenson.
The way you said that.
Well, remember when he blew in LeBron's ear?
I remember.
So Lance Stephenson is actually going to be getting released by the New Orleans Pelicans. He's been battling some injuries and everything, and the plan is they're going to be signing former Phoenix Suns guard Archie Goodwin. Archie Goodwin, a player who used to be at Kentucky.
He's pretty good.
He was okay with the Suns, not bad, not a bad move. So Lance Stephenson, really just ever since he signed that free agent contract with Charlotte, right after he had his good times with Indiana, kind of just fallen off the map here, Lance Stephenson. Now he's battling some injuries, so unfortunate for Stephenson. I always thought he was a good player, a solid player, just in a really good system with the Pacers. Mm-hmm. And I thought if he could go back to a team that's similar like that, he would have a place to sort of replicate his success, but it just hasn't really worked out for Lance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's expected to be like a perennial like all-star kind of leading his team in that sense. I don't know if that was really what they expected of him coming into his career there, but I mean, he definitely hasn't quite panned out as a great player with the Pelicans. So unfortunately, he is on the way out, man. Yeah,
he's going to be needing some groin surgery soon. He's going to be out for a long time. The Pelicans, not starting the season they would have hoped, although Anthony Davis is tearing up the league. They sit at 0-6.
Yeah, you can only do so much from one player standpoint and still lose games. It's pretty deflating for a franchise, I'm sure. I mean, you have a guy that scored nearly 60 points to open the season this year, and they lost. So not quite what you want when you have a star marquee player like Davis. So they need to start building around him to start winning games. Unfortunately, Lance Stephenson is a casualty of that. So it's unfortunate, but that is how the cookie crumbles, Lance Stephenson. We will always remember you for blowing in people's ears more than once.
Yes, definitely. And all the infamous memes.
Yeah. Or there's one where there's like they have all the ones. It's like him blowing, and then it's like a GIF or somebody falling down. Stuff like that. Like somebody that like loses their balance just falls down. So those were always funny. I always enjoyed those. I know you did too. You like a good meme.
I do. I love them.
I like a good GIF. GIFs are always great.
They are. GIFs are always good.
I'm glad you agree. Moving to college football, and the last of these little bits of news to throw at you today. Are you familiar with Chad Kelly? I believe you are.
I am. Yes, I've heard of him once or twice. Yeah. He's that guy who's like the nephew of Jim Kelly, right?
Yeah. And he's related to Kelly Ripa.
of the infamous Regis and Kelly.
Well, that's
not really.
That's actually not true. Anyways, he has been looked at as somebody who is kind of, he obviously had a bad go of things, early in his career. He was kind of a polarizing figure because he kind of seemed to have issues with his maturity at times, Well, Chad Kelly's collegiate career has come to an end following their game against Georgia Southern this weekend. He has torn his ACL and his lateral meniscus in their win over Georgia Southern, 37-27. He's going to undergo season-ending surgery this week. He came out at the beginning of the fourth. It was a hit that didn't go low on him or anything. It was kind of high, and maybe the way he landed or kind of came off his leg was something that did it. But yes, like he said, his uncle and godfather is Jim Kelly, but that's not going to do much. I mean, I think he'll give him a chance in the NFL. This is Jim Kelly's, sister's kid or brother's kid or whatever. We'll give him a chance kind of thing. But, he didn't have an amazing career at Ole Miss after having to transfer. He didn't look great this year for sure. People looked at him as the best quarterback in the SEC, and he definitely didn't look like it this year. He had a very bad year. He had more off-the-field issues. He got into a fight at a high school field where his little brother or cousin or whatever was playing. His brother, excuse me. So that from there, right there, is already a question mark with him. I think he's going to have some issues. He accounted for an SEC-high 3,000 yards of offense this year, which was good. He was passing for a league leading 2,758 yards, so he's averaging about 306.4 yards a game, 19 touchdown passes. He's the second on the team with 332 rushing yards. So a good year for him, but he had 11 turnovers. It was down in that sense. It was his first season as the Rebel started in 2015, so he only had a year plus in the system. And it's going to be interesting to see how he is looked at going into the draft process, especially with such a late injury that's probably serious.
Yeah, he would have to miss at least the start of the season if he were going to the NFL.
Yeah,
so
of course he's probably not going to be a starter.
That takes more away from you. But I mean, for me, it was just really the mistakes he always made. So many turnovers, 11 turnovers this year. You'd think second year in the system now, kind of the team leader, he would really calm everything down, but not really having the success people would have maybe hoped for and thought. So, I mean, I don't see much of a future in the NFL, but hey, we'll have to wait and see. You never know. So
you never know. But that is it for the news today. I will be back tomorrow to talk tonight's Monday night game, to probably talk a little bit more about the college football playoff rankings and where we see them going potentially, and anything else that comes up in the time between. Especially maybe a news conference to talk about a new manager in baseball. I don't know. Something like that. And, of course, Ben will be back on Wednesday.
Yes, I will.
Until then, we'd like to thank you for listening to our wonderful show, to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. For Anthony, I'm Alex.
And I'm Ben.
And I'll see you tomorrow.
And I'll see you Wednesday.
You guys have a good day. You enjoy your sports, and we'll talk later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.